All right, I guess we'll get started. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. This is the NC State Prague information session. We'll introduce ourselves here in a second, but before we do, just a quick couple housekeeping rules. You're all probably pretty familiar with this by now, but on Zoom calls, if you could just mute yourself unless you're talking, that'd be great. We're also recording this, as you may have seen. So if you have to pop in, pop out, that's fine. We can share this with you afterwards. But yeah, today, so we have a few slides for you. It's not a terribly long presentation. So what we try to do in this is, as the name suggests, give you information about who we are, what we do, and that's in the realm of study abroad. So we talk about our programs and academics, how that works, and a lot of other details as well. So we appreciate you being here and submitting your questions and things you wanted to kind of hear about today. Fortunately, we're going to pretty much tackle all of the questions that we saw submitted. So you're going to get answers to those. And if you still have questions that we don't address by the end of this, we're going to leave a little time at the end as well for some questions and answers. Okay. So again, not a lot of slides, just so just bear with us. If you could kind of hold the questions to that section at the end, that'd be great. We'll also be kind of pausing to hear from some of our we call them alums, so our NC State Prague alums. We have the good fortune of having a couple past participants from this year, so we get to hear from their experiences as well. So yeah, so we're looking forward to being able to present this with you, and thanks again for being here. So yeah, just real quick before we dive into the information, just kind of who we are. So NC State Prague, we are a unit within the university, and our primary kind of work is to facilitate study abroad programs. We do some other things as well, but we're composed of sort of two offices. So we have our NC State Prague on-site office, which most of our staff do work there. But then we have the Raleigh side of operations, so to speak, and that's myself and Maggie. We'll introduce ourselves here next. But we work with students who are thinking about studying abroad with our programs, starting to apply, all through that phase before you basically go and physically are in Prague. We call this the pre-departure phase. So you'll see or hear or get emails from us if you're pursuing applications with our programs. So that's kind of who we are on this side. And we're located, if you're curious, at Holmes Hall. So right in the central campus, squeezed in between the gym and the health center. Okay. So anyway, so with that, just real quick, my name is Alex Wessner. I've been with NC State in different capacities since 2013. I'm the associate director here. I'm a Raleigh native. And yeah, so again, like I said, my role in this office's role is kind of help out with the pre-departure phase of operations. So Maggie?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. My name is Maggie Agnew. I'm a program coordinator with the European Center in Prague. I've been in this position since June of last year, so a little bit coming up on a year and a half now. I, like Alex, work on the pre-departure side. So I work most closely with students during the advising period, most specifically for our fall and spring classic programs, as that's a requirement of the application, but then also through visa advising as well. That is something that's the service that we offer for those students specifically. So that's kind of the capacity that I work most closely with.
Great.
And we've got a couple, like Alex mentioned, a couple of our former students, Kristen and Bennett. I will let you guys introduce yourselves. Whoever wants to go first, just briefly, say hello.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kristen. I am currently in the Biological and Agricultural Engineering Department. My concentration is bioprocessing, and I did a microbrewery internship this past summer in Prague. So I did the internship program.
Hi, I'm Bennett. I study political science with a minor in Italian. And I most recently studied abroad just last semester in the spring of 2024, the classic program over this whole semester.
Excellent. Thanks, y'all. And again, we'll be hearing more from them throughout the presentation. Okay, so just to kind of start us off, just a big picture view. First of all, what is the NC State European Center? You may be asking, why is NC State in Prague, kind of how that happened. But just, yeah, so NC State has more or less been sending students to Prague, which is the capital of the Czech Republic, since the early 90s. It sort of started as a College of Design initiative where they would send architecture students on various study abroad programs and things, and sort of kind of grew from there, became more and more popular as a destination until about 7 years ago, the university sort of kind of shifted its administration and made it more accessible to all students at NC State. So we are open to students from any major, and we certainly take students from every major here, or every college from NC State. And we have a permanent facility there. In fact, if you're looking at the screen, you see that picture at the top, that yellow building with the red flag. That is the NC State European Center. So if you've been to Prague or kind of have seen pictures of it, this is located in the historic heart of Prague. It's kind of right off of the old main old town square. So if you want to Google image that, it's this big space, this beautiful historic space. We're right on the kind of right next to that. And so you're in a really great location. NC State's had this building since 2017, and all of our facilities for classrooms, student spaces, they're all in this one building. And so great place to be in short. And so this is, you can think of it essentially as an extension of NC State's campus located in the historic heart of Europe, really. Because Prague is, if you look at a map, Czech Republic, it's in Central Europe, not Eastern Europe. Don't say that, they get kind of offended when you say that, but it's Central Europe, which is a great location. And we have a foothold basically there, a campus. And so for that reason, and for the fact that you're taking NC State classes, which we'll talk a bit more about later on, we are the most popular destination for NC State study abroad. And so we do send, it's up to over 300 students every year now. Seems to be more and more popular each year. We have about 14 different programs on offer throughout the year. We break it up into spring, summer, and fall cycles. We'll look a bit more about those at those programs later. But yeah, so all year round we have NC State students, and this is primarily we do have a few students from other schools, but this is pretty much everyone is an NC State student who attends these programs. So that's pretty cool. When you're over there, you are surrounded by NC State students. So you have maybe some friends, some people that become friends that are there with you that you can return with to campus here in Raleigh. Another nice thing about this facility is, as I mentioned at the beginning, most of our staff members are on site. And so they are actually located, their offices in the same building, which is nice because if you need support, you need to pop in or just to say hi, they're really friendly. You can do that. They're right in the same building as where you'll be for a lot of your time. Yeah, and so there's a lot to this building. It may look small from this picture, but there's a ton of space. Like I said, classroom space, there's kitchen space, there's outdoor kind of courtyard space, there's studio space for some of our design students. You can see a few of the interior shots at the bottom of the screen, but there's a lot more to it. You're welcome to explore our website too to see some more of that. But it's an awesome location, again, in the historic heart of Prague, which is in the center of Europe, more or less. Okay. So that's just a quick view of our center, kind of NC State's presence in Prague. Let's talk a little bit more about academics. So we are a study, we facilitate study abroad programs, right? So the big attraction of that obviously is you're abroad, you're exploring a different environment, different culture, and that's a really important component to studying abroad, right? We feel that being abroad can enhance learning outcomes. You know, it's basically a great setting to sort of reinforce and enrich content you're learning in the classroom, but that's also a key part of it too. It's a study part as well. So you're studying while you're there, and you do take classes, a full load of them, in the spring or the fall or the summer, whenever you go. You're enrolled full time, and I really want to emphasize this: these are NC State classes. Okay. So a lot of study abroad programs here as NC State and elsewhere, you'll do like an exchange thing where you're at a different university, and then you have to do the paperwork to transfer those classes over to make sure that they count towards your degree progress. Okay. So that's how most are set up. But NC State Prague programs are all NC State classes. They're basically, they don't require any transfer process, which is a big kind of attraction to these programs, is when you're there, you're taking them and you'll know they'll count, so to speak. And so most of the classes we offer, and we do have about 30 or so classes that we offer at different times of the year. They're gonna fulfill GEP courses. So they're mostly like 200, 300 level classes. Okay. And they cover a range of different disciplines. So if you still need like a humanities GEP to fulfill or like a social sciences, you can find something of interest there. Okay. Again, don't have to worry about transferring. They all will count towards like a GEP, towards a degree requirement. Classes also, we set them up more or less to meet Mondays through Thursdays. You may kind of recognize the point of that is we want to give you a chance to explore your environments, to travel if you so wish, to have long weekends. So you'll have that throughout pretty much your time while you're abroad. So classes Mondays through Thursdays. Sometimes we have some excursions on Fridays, but more or less you have the long weekend, so to speak. You can check out our courses. We have a whole list of them on our website. We have a little link there at the bottom. Again, about 30 classes, different times of the year. And you can kind of see on our list which GEP that specific course will fulfill. Now, more about academics. We have small class sizes, right? So just to give you a sense of the numbers. So in the summertime, that's our most popular period for study abroad. And that's true for pretty much all programs. So summer is when we have well over 100 students there studying abroad, and so the fall and the spring, it's semester-long programs. We have about, it ranges from about 60 to 80 students there, 60 to 90 maybe, so a little bit smaller. But in all cases, we have small class sizes, meaning about 12 to 14 students. Often less than that. So you do get a great experience in the classroom, get that close attention with your instructor. So learning outcomes can be really good. Okay, so small class sizes. Our instructors are all approved, vetted, so to speak, by our NC State home academic departments. So if we have a history professor, they're approved by the history department here at NC State. Okay, in a lot of cases, these professors have been teaching for many years for NC State Prague. And they're going to be uniquely, they're going to be in most cases Czech, but European. We have a lot of our faculty also have appointments at other universities nearby, maybe Charles University, but they're instructors with maybe a Czech European perspective. So you do get that to enrich, I would say, your classroom experience as well. In addition, we don't just want you in the classroom. A big benefit of being abroad is you can learn outside of the classroom. And so we take you on field trips whenever that's appropriate and possible. The instructors may have class excursions. You may visit certain historical sites, cultural centers of importance to, again, enhance what you're learning in the classroom. So it's really an awesome opportunity to take classes that maybe you would take in Raleigh, to do that in Prague from wonderful faculty, and getting outside and kind of getting sort of the abroad experience with that kind of helps your overall learning. Yeah, so with that, I'm going to pause here and give the mic, so to speak, to Maggie so we can hear from some of our alums.
Yeah, so since we're talking about academics, I noticed that a couple of the questions in the registration form, we're talking about what does an average kind of day look like or week like with the courses. So that's kind of where I wanted to get Kristen and Bennett, you guys' experiences with academics. I know you both, you did different programs. So maybe Bennett, if you want to go first and maybe just talk a little bit about the courses that you took and maybe how they fit into your overall degree plan, and maybe like what a typical week looked like for you with courses.
Yeah, so sorry, bear with me. I lost my voice over the weekend and I'm still getting it back. Yeah, so I, of course, met with my academic advisor before studying abroad, and so he was able to kind of outline a huge chunk of requirements that I could like kind of get done while studying abroad. So for example, as a poli-sci student, I took a European politics class that worked for one of my degree requirements. As well as just a general history class, which worked. It's like it's just they work with you very well on trying to find things to further your degree audit, so you're not just kind of doing random stuff that doesn't actually help you in the long run. But just like a normal day school-wise, I mean, I'm assuming we'll talk a little bit later about like traveling around the city, but you get up, you go to class. For the most part, the classes are pretty close together time-wise, so I just kind of stay there the whole day. But I mean, all the professors were super incredible. I think all of mine were Czech, but two, I think were Polish. Um, and they're all super, super smart and knowledgeable and kind of getting like I took a principles of sociology class, which was another degree requirement, but it was mainly sociology kind of from the Czech perspective, which added a really interesting side to it that I would have never ever thought to consider. So it's just really, really incredible, like being in those classes and having those different perspectives because it makes you and forces you to look at things wildly different than you'd look at things in the US.
Awesome. Thanks, Bennett. Kristen, like I said, obviously your program was a little bit different since you participated in the internship program. So maybe you want to walk us through just a little bit about how you were matched with your internship placement, maybe like what that process looked like just briefly, and what your day-to-day schedule looked like since you weren't technically in the classroom all day.
Yes. So with the internship, you do have to take a class, but it is online. So you don't have to go to the center and all the meetings are over Zoom. So that was fine. Getting matched for an internship is a process, and I was laid out with a couple, or the coordinator sent me a job. I said, okay, I like that. But then he got back to me and said, oh, they can't take an intern. So it's kind of this back and forth with what companies fit what you want to do when you apply, because you put what you'd be interested in doing, and then what companies can actually take you on as an intern. So I was given three choices before we landed on the microbrewery, but it was the best. So no problems there.
Awesome. And then do you just want to speak a little bit about what maybe your day-to-day looked like? Did you go to the brewery every day? Kind of what did that look like with your internship?
Yes. So every day went to the brewery. It was Monday through Thursday. Again, we still had Fridays off. Um, the brewery schedule was a little different than most people's because it doesn't follow that 8-hour workday. So I would sometimes leave before the brew was done and things like that, but it was very consistent every day. Just get up and go and work and then come back. And then we were able to spend our evenings doing whatever we wanted. So yeah.
Thank you both for sharing. Appreciate that. Alex, I'll hand it back to you.
All right, great. Thanks for that. So let's dive in a little bit to our program. So I mentioned we have a variety of programs, about 14 on offer throughout the year. But our main, what we consider sort of our main bread and butter program, our most popular one is the one Bennett was on, the classic program. Okay. And this we run in each cycle, so spring, summer, fall. And the structure of this is basically you choose the classes you want. So some of our programs have set schedules, so there's no flexibility there. But for this one, you can craft your own course schedule. So you would just see what's available among the list of courses during that term, and you can pick what you want. Now, you have to be full-time enrolled, of course, and so spring and fall, that means at least 12 credit hours. Some are at least 5 credit hours. So these programs, they do, for the semester versions, they run 15 weeks. And that has some implications for visas, which we'll kind of briefly touch upon towards the end of this presentation. And then the summer version is a 6-week program. And so that runs from May to about end of June. And so you have kind of again, this is the most popular time of year to go, and this is by far our most popular program. So again, you're full-time enrolled in classes. That program, this is going to include all our kind of our main sort of our main offerings. So you have housing including in that, of course, on-site orientation. We do include a couple excursions in the semester version and one excursion in the summer version. And there's lots else that comes with that too, which we'll talk about a bit more as well. The key kind of thing I've already mentioned is you're on these programs with other NC State students. And so you're not kind of thrown into some environment where you don't know anyone, or you're traveling with people from around the country where you don't know anyone. You're going with, in some cases, people you may already know or kind of get to know other NC State students are there with you. So yeah, this is our classic program again, the most popular version, but not to say the only thing that we have on offer. So just a quick look at some of our other programs. We do have in the summertime, we have a couple programs which we've heard from Kristen about the internship. That's roughly along the same schedule as the classic one, except we have them start a week earlier. So that's a 7-week program. She mentioned the class, that's a 6-credit course, which you do kind of online more or less. But the bulk of that is what you do in your about 30 to 35 hour per week internship throughout the summer. And so this has been a really popular program. So we've had that for a few years now, and that's during the summertime only. We have another program, Summer Engineering 101. This is specific to engineering, first-year engineering students, because that's where you take the E101 Introduction to Engineering course and one other class. So that sort of has more of a specific audience, but that's also one available. And then we have about 6 different faculty-led programs. Now, what's a faculty-led program? Okay, so the other programs I've been talking about classic are sort of what we call group programs. So you just go there as a student, you have classes there, and it's sort of kind of a standard program. The faculty-led are a little bit different in that we have specific faculty members who lead the program. So they basically have a smaller group of students. Typically, these programs will focus on a more narrow academic interest. So it may be a program about physiology or a program about Shakespeare. Okay, so they're good if you're kind of looking for more specific academic focus. And we have again 6 programs on offer covering different topics. Typically, they're going to be shorter, so they can range from about 1.5 to 4 weeks, kind of in that area. Typically 2 to 3 weeks. And they're going to take place as well in the summer 2 session. So we're talking about July. All right. So that also may have an impact on sort of your schedule as well. But definitely take a look at those. We have those on our webpage. You can get all the details about that, which courses are on offer, specific costs, and so forth. But we call those our summer faculty led. All right. And then finally, we do offer, in addition to the classic semester versions in spring and fall, we do have sort of a unique program that accompanies each of those in those terms. So in the fall, we have what we call the Connect program, Prague Connect. Now this has a very specific audience, and people on this call may not pertain to you, but this is only for folks who are admitted as part of the Spring Connect class. So these are for new admits. So people who newly applied to NC State, they don't get in quite yet to the fall, but are admitted for the spring admission. They then have an opportunity to actually start NC State classes with us in Prague for that fall term before they begin their fully matriculated student experience here in Raleigh in the spring. So it's a pretty unique experience program. But again, very, very specific to a very specific group of folks. And then finally, in the spring, we have what we call the Global Leadership Minor Program. This is really unique, really interesting. It's the only program we have on offer that includes travel to other countries, includes basically part of the program in other sites in other countries. So this spans typically 3 countries. So we have a start and a finish, of course, in Prague, Czech Republic. And then the other 2 countries tend to vary year to year, but can be anywhere from Austria or Germany or France or the United Kingdom. It could be England or Scotland. So we do have this kind of really cool program where you travel together as a group. You're in a set schedule of courses that basically courses that lead towards a minor, this so-called global leadership and team decision-making minor. So you basically earn 12 credits towards this 15-credit minor, that last course you take on campus, typically before you go abroad. So it's a really cool program, really unique, because different countries. It's a bit shorter than our Spring Classic program. It's a 10-week program, pretty intense, because you're traveling together to these different locations. You're taking one class per site. So you do a pretty intensive course. So that may be of interest to some folks in this call as well. But yeah, so that's a quick overview of some of our other programs. Again, if you want to learn more, definitely encourage you to check out our webpage. We do devote a separate webpage for each of these programs so you can learn more about them. All right, so with pretty much all our programs, though, we do, as I kind of touched upon, include other program activities. And so we'll start you off with an on-site orientation. Depending on your program, this could be 1 or 2 days. We start that pretty quickly after you arrive in Prague, just to kind of get you oriented to your new environment, set the expectations, get you familiar with your surroundings, sort of lots of important information, health and safety stuff, and so forth. Most of our programs do come with a Czech language and culture immersion crash course. This happens towards the very beginning to kind of expose you to the Czech language, give you some introduction to the Czech culture, which is always helpful. Now, you don't need to know Czech to do this program because Prague is very English language friendly. So this is just to kind of give you some basics. It's always good to kind of know a few things, but it's not necessary to know the language. Then we have things like Czech cooking classes that we offer throughout the term. We are really good at sort of offering some optional cultural events, arranging those logistics, buying tickets, and making it really easy for you to go. And Prague has a lot of different cultural events. There's a lot of opportunities while you're there to explore. Finally, we do these excursions. So every one of our programs has a trip within the country to this beautiful town called Český Krumlov. And then for our semester classic programs, we do have an additional trip that goes outside of the Czech Republic. And that's lately that's been to Krakow, Poland, and that's all included in the program as well. Okay. And so shifting and finally housing, this is maybe a question on your mind as well. So what do I do when I'm there? Do I have to figure housing out on my own, where I live, and so forth? So it's really easy. So we have our own apartment building, more or less. We have several of these depending on the year, but this is our main, this picture itself actually is the main housing unit that we have all year round. And you're most likely going to be in that particular unit. Again, summer is a busy time, so we have to kind of extend out to our other properties, but you're all together more or less. So this building itself is just for NC State students on the program. So we know who you are. You're on 3 floors of rooms. The rooms are typically 2 per room with a shared bathroom, so it's dorm style. Those rooms are all going to be fully furnished. You don't need to buy anything. You just need to bring or buy a shower towel. That's it. Everything's included, including bedding. So it's really easy. You just all set for you, ready to go. Each floor as well has a shared kitchen space. And so you'll have kitchen supplies there. So it's really easy for you to cook meals, prepare your meals. This is a space where you can eat the meals, hang out with friends. Again, each floor will have one. In the basement, we have laundry facilities, so it's really easy to do that. There's also 24/7 staffing and security. Again, this is a facility that we have just for y'all, and it's something we've had for years. And so this is more or less sort of informally NC State's dorm in Prague. Additionally, on every floor, we have what we call Czech dorm mates. These are similar to like RAs, resident assistants, but not quite, because they're not there to sort of police you or anything. They're just more there to kind of support you if you need anything, if you need some tips on where to go, whatever, local pharmacies or whatever. They're Czechs. Typically, they know the area. They're also typically students themselves. They work for us, but they're also on site and are there to support you, kind of if you need any immediate help. And they're also kind of fun to hang out with too. Again, they're more kind of dorm mates rather than RAs, but they're there. Finally, really important. So when you're in Prague, when you're living here, you're really close to a tram stop. And so to get around the city, you can really easily get around on the public transportation system. There's metro lines, there's bus lines, there's tram lines. And so you're really close in this building to a tram stop, which gets you right into the heart of the city where you're taking classes. And so that's really convenient. There's a Lidl grocery store, as well as other restaurants really nearby. This is in a residential part of the city, in other words. So it's a really good location, but about 15-20 minutes from the center itself. Okay, I'm going to pause there because if you want to hear more about the living experience, we'll get that from our students, and I'll pass it over to Maggie.
Yeah. So yeah, I know Alex has kind of gone over the basics of the housing, kind of from our perspective, but it might be nice to hear from the student perspective. So Kristen and Bennett, do y'all want to just share briefly about your experiences living in Prague? If that was here at Zeitram, or if that was maybe in one of the other apartments, maybe more so for you, Kristen, what dorm life was like, what your commute looked like, and kind of how did you find living in Prague overall?
I thought living in Prague was great. Like he was saying, the tram stop was like 1 minute away. The Lidl was even closer. Unfortunately, the public transportation wouldn't take me to where I worked, but it was only a 20-minute walk, so I would just walk there. But my roommate, she had to take the metro. But everyone, very easy. The system, their transport system is really easy to navigate, um, and you'll get the hang of it over time. As far as living in the buildings, also thought it was fine. We get everything you'd need to cook, and you have places to store refrigerated items and just regular in the pantry items. So there was no space issue with that. And then the Czech dorm mates, definitely great. You should be friends with them. They are very friendly and they're also students and they'll show you around the city. They'll show you the best spots. So, yeah.
Yeah, so the public transport made the building in downtown a little more accessible. It was probably a 10-minute ride on the tram. And again, it's like right there and like it's like the back of your hand. Like I could literally recite right now the exact line and stop I would get off at and like where to walk. Um, it's like so easy. It's such a walkable city too. Like there are some days if you wake up early enough or have a late class, you could like walk from the student housing to the building. Like it's such an easy city to get around and learn. I actually kind of had an interesting scenario. So I signed up to have a roommate, but just the way the numbers worked out, I actually got a suite by myself. So it was apartment style. So I had my own bathroom and kitchen. Um, so that was really nice. But all of my friends that I would constantly hang out with, they had like roommates, and so I would hear their experiences and live vicariously through them, and they always had nothing but good things to say. The facilities and like the building is so nice in itself. And oh my, you guys need to talk to the Czech roommates. They are so cool. Oh my God. Like literally all the time you'd hang out. I miss Martin. He was like my floor's Czech roommate. He was incredible. Like literally, I could talk about it forever. But no, it's like it's really nice being in a building with like everybody that's in your program because it makes everything more accessible and everything less scary. You can go to class with friends every day. You can figure things out every day. Like there was a day where me and my class were 40 minutes late because we actually ended up on the wrong side of the city by accident, but we all got there together. So it's just, it makes it so much better and big being all together in this housing. Yeah, yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
I would like to add something specifically with the internship program. You get there a week before the classic students, and you don't have to work that week. So you have that whole week to just explore the city, get to know other people in your program, get settled in before you actually have to go to work. And I really liked that. I really liked having that week before you just get right into doing the 6 weeks of work.
Great, thank you very much. Okay, awesome. So kind of we're moving quick. We have just a handful really of a few more topics to cover and just a handful of slides. So want to cover to kind of close out here, want to cover some information about, of course, cost breakdowns, as well as application process, scholarship information, and so forth. So with that, basically, you probably saw, let me just back up here for a sec. You saw a quote, some price quotes, some program cost quotes up there with the spring, fall, and summer programs for Classic. You also saw that with our other programs here. And so let's just take a look at what that includes, because this is what we refer to as the program cost, okay? That's going to include a lot of things, but it's also going to exclude some things too. So to give you kind of an idea of total costs, we want to factor that in as well. So our program cost breakdown. And so those when you go to our website, when you're exploring programs and you see the program cost, that's going to refer to just these things that are included in there. Okay, so it's the big items. The biggest two would be your tuition and housing. Okay, so all that's included in the program costs, right? So if you do 12 credit hours, if you do 15 credit hours, it's the same. And the housing that we've heard about from Kristen and Bennett, that's all included in there as well. Okay, some other items too worth noting. So you have during your time there, you're going to be enrolled automatically in GeoBlue's international health insurance coverage. Okay, that's automatic. We take care of that, but that's also part of the program cost that you pay for already. Just worth noting too, if you do travel around, so it's not just covering you for Prague or Czech Republic, it's also including more or less Europe. So you have a wide coverage on that same plan. The excursions that we mentioned that are part of the program also are part of the program costs. So those are already paid for. So like getting to those places, getting housing in those places, that's all included in the program cost. Some of our cultural events will be included in that as well. And then some other things too, like the laundry facilities, the transportation pass that we haven't mentioned yet, but we'll give you a transportation pass that has a picture of you on it. You get this during orientation, and you can use this to kind of bounce around on the public transportation system in Prague. So the metro, again, tram, buses, you can use this one pass. That's all part of the program cost that you pay for these programs. Now, shifting over to what's not included. So this is just, pay attention to this because we do not basically have a group flight that we book for everyone. So you have to basically would purchase that on your own. And so that's going to be an out-of-pocket cost that you would want to consider as well. So this, of course, if you have any experience booking flights, you know that this could vary a lot. So it could vary from the time of year, it could vary obviously from where you're going from. So you can sort of expect, for a round trip transatlantic flight, $1,200, basically 1,000 to 1,600. There could be a wide range. You can get less than that, you can get more than that. Again, it depends on a lot of things. So we want to make sure that you're aware of that. So the flight is individually booked, and that's obviously out of pocket. Meals. So we looked a little bit, talked kind of really briefly about the kitchen spaces. And so when you're in Prague, it's not like here in Raleigh where we have so many students, where we have these dining facilities set up for you like cafeteria style. It doesn't work that way. We basically, you kind of do meals how you want to do them. And so usually that's going to consist of you going to the grocery store, you're buying meals, also going out to eat, kind of whatever you want to do. Now, Prague itself, it's a big city, a lot bigger than Raleigh, but as far as like food expenses go, it's really comparable. In fact, I think probably a bit less than Raleigh even. So you can kind of get by pretty well on meals there, even if you're going out to eat for some or a lot of them. But that's up to you to kind of decide how you want to do that. But it's not included, so you want to budget for that as well for your program. Finally, we get supplies and personal expenses. This is sort of a catch-all term. Personal expenses can mean like, that extra stick of deodorant that you need to buy, or the gifts from mom and dad, sister and brother you want to get. You just want to allocate some funds for that, because when you're over there abroad, you're going to probably be spending on other stuff, not nicely categorized in these other things. Textbooks, finally, studio supplies, no surprise as students, you always have to shell out some money for those things every year. Our faculty are usually pretty good at being sort of cost effective, making things that you have to read digitally accessible and so forth, but you may have some expenses in that area, especially if you're doing like a studio or something like that. Now, to close out this slide, I told you I'm going to talk really briefly about the visa, and it's worth mentioning here because if you're thinking about what do I need, I'm traveling abroad, what documentation in terms of that do I need to have or be aware of? So there's two things that you may one thing you definitely need, the other thing you may need. So the passport, hopefully it's obvious, you need a passport that's valid to go on any study abroad program, of course, to travel outside the US. But it's, definitely. So you need to have a valid passport, by which I mean, if you're thinking about studying abroad, say in like summer, you want to look at when the summer program ends, and you want to make sure that your passport doesn't expire before that or even shortly thereafter. Okay, so you want to check if you have a passport already, what the expiration date is, so you have a valid passport. If you don't have one, that's fine too. You can apply for one. It doesn't take terribly long to get one. Sort of standard processing times for US passports is, it varies, but it can be 6 to 8 weeks. You can also do an expedite service for a little bit more, about $60 more for get that down to about 2 to 5 weeks. It varies from year to year, but you're going to want to, of course, if you need one, plan for that. You don't want to be in a situation where you really want to go abroad, but realize too late that you don't have a passport. So just be aware of that. So passports, number one. The second thing is the visa. Just not to get into this too much, but the visa is basically needed for some times when you're in a country for a certain period of time. And so for our programs, you only need a visa for the classic fall program and the classic spring program for US passport holders. Okay. If you're on this call or listening to this and maybe you're a national of another country, you may need a visa, but we would just have to explore that. But for US passport holders, which we presume are definitely most of our participants, and we presume probably most people on this call, you do not need a visa unless you're on the Spring or Classic program, or unless you've been traveling in Europe a lot close to the program dates. Okay, so what do I mean by that? So if you're a US passport holder, you're allowed to be in the Czech Republic or what we call the Schengen zone, which just think of it in terms more or less of Europe. So you're allowed to be in that big area for up to 90 days, so 90 days without a visa. Okay, so you're allowed to be there for up to 90 days without a visa. Most of our programs are less than 90 days, with the exception, of course, of the spring and fall classic programs, which are about 108 days. Okay, so just be aware of that. All right. So if, let's say, though you've been to Europe or you're planning trips to Europe before your study abroad program, or you plan to stay a lot after the study abroad program, then you want to do some math and make sure that that total time doesn't amount to over 90 days. Okay. So that's all I want to say about that. If you're in this situation or you have any questions about that as you're kind of going through later on applying, feel free to reach out to us. We can help you kind of explore that. But all you need to know really is you definitely need a passport. You may, but probably not will need a visa depending on your program and your situation. Okay. So backing out though, this is the cost breakdown. Again, our program cost is going to include a lot. The big ticket items would be your tuition, your housing. The big two items that are not included are your flight and your food. All right, so just bear that in mind when you're looking at our programs, you're looking at the costs, and you're wondering what's included and what's not. Okay, so let me just kind of skip around, just skip this slide. I'll come right back to this, okay, because it's sort of more germane for me to talk a bit about funds at this point. So we just talked about the costs. If you're thinking about, well, funding, how do I fund that? And I know we've had some questions, some inquiries about scholarships. So let me just talk about that briefly here. So in general, you can fund your study abroad program however you wish. So it could be personal funds, it could be financial aid, it could be scholarships, grants, and so forth. You are eligible to use financial aid for these programs, but you have to make sure, of course, for that your classes count towards your degree. So that would mean either courses you pick fulfill some GEP you still need, or some degree requirement you still need. So that's a main criteria for using financial aid for this study abroad program, or really any study abroad program. But you can use financial aid for this as well, just like you would for really any other semester at NC State if you have that. For scholarships, though, I really want to encourage everyone to think about applying for an NC State study abroad scholarship. So what this is the university has allocated a bunch of money, and at this point, it's kind of up to around $1 million to divide that up into individual awards for people going on study abroad programs through NC State. And so what we try to do is to have that impact a lot of people. So we want to try to get the awards out to many participants. So what this means is, on the one hand, it's great. You stand a pretty good chance of getting something. But on the other hand, that means that that something won't cover typically your full program cost, which is not to say it's not worth it still, but just keep in mind if you're applying for this, don't think that it's going to cover everything. Okay. The award amounts, as you can see here in the slide, typically range from about 1,000 to 3,000 bucks, which helps, right? The process itself is not hard. It's a single application. It doesn't cost anything to apply, really easy. You just have to do it. So take the little time to do it, and you just have to make sure to do it in time. And so for that, you can see here, we have different scholarship application deadlines. This will vary according to which program you're applying for. So if you're applying for a summer program versus a fall program versus a spring program, there's going to be a different deadline. So the ones that we're in now, so summer 2025 and fall 2025, you can see that they have deadlines of November 15th of this year and February 15th of next year, respectively. So summer has a hard November 15th deadline. Fall 2025 has a hard February 15th deadline. So just keep that in mind. If you get one in though, definitely encourage, check it out. There's a link there. You can go learn more about that, get access to the application online. But definitely want to promote that because it's really easy to do and you stand a pretty good chance of getting something. Okay, can't guarantee you will, but give it a shot. We want to encourage you. That's one way you can help fund your study abroad experience. Okay. So let me jump back now and just kind of wrapping up sort of my part of this, just talking real quickly about application dates as well. So we talked about scholarship deadlines. Just be aware there's separate application deadlines for the program, okay? And so if you're thinking about the summer 2025 programs, those have two separate deadlines for most of the programs. And so we have a December 1st, what we call early action deadline. That you can think of as a priority deadline. And so if you are applying for, say, our summer classic program, you could apply for early action, which would give you sort of a leg up above other applicants. For popular programs such as our summer classic program, this does come into play sometimes because if we have a lot of people applying, not enough spaces for everyone, we will obviously give priority to those who meet the early action deadline. Okay. That's December 1st. But that's not to say you have to get it in by then. Our quote unquote regular deadline is February 5th, 2025. Okay. So you can still apply all the way up until and including February 5th. And again, that's for summer 2025. So every program cycle is going to have separate application deadlines. And right now we're just highlighting, of course, the ones that are currently active that we're receiving currently applications for. So summer it's already open. It's going to December 1st and February 5th. And then after that, we have our fall applications. So fall 2025, those just opened. They just opened this week and they'll stay open until February 15th. So that's a shorter window. That's just one application deadline. So if you're thinking of fall term, just be aware that we do have one deadline, get it in by February 15th. That's really key. Okay. So if you're thinking though, and we know some folks on this call maybe aren't thinking until later than that, and that's great, that's fine. Just be aware that there's going to be different deadlines for different cycles. So, summer, fall, spring, you can check those out. Again, go to our website. We'll have the application deadlines there. We'll have the links to apply and so forth. Just check that out. But we just are highlighting the ones that they're coming up that we're currently in. Scholarships, again, we just talked about this, but learn more about it on their webpage, and they'll give you the specific deadlines too as well. Be aware of those, and those are separate from our program application deadlines. All right, so just to sum up here, so to apply, what the process looks like, it's really easy. It's pretty much entirely online. What you do is you can go to our webpage, prague.ncsu.edu. You find your program. We have all our programs. Like I said, each one has a separate page. You just go there and you'll see on that page towards the top, just a pretty obvious red apply button or apply now button. Click that. It's going to take you directly into the portal, the application portal, which is called Pack Abroad, the Pack Abroad portal. All application materials are completed, submitted online. Okay, you don't need to come by the office to drop anything off physically. You can complete that all online. It'll walk you through the step-by-step process of submitting everything. There'll be some questionnaires to fill out. There'll be some things to read and sign. There'll be some information aspects to the application. But you'll see all the steps, you'll see the number of steps, and you'll see when they're completed. It's pretty straightforward. We're here. Part of my job and Maggie's jobs are we're here to support you through that process. So if you're going through this, you have any questions or any issues, technically speaking, or just otherwise, reach out to us. Don't be shy about it. We're here to help with that. But it's a pretty straightforward process to apply. But that's really simple. How you do it? Just find your program, click the red apply button when it's time, and then just complete and go through in time for the deadline. All right. That's it for me, for my part, and we're going to shift back to the students here.
Yeah, so I'm aware of time. I know we've got a little bit less than 10 minutes before kind of our hour is up. So I just wanted to ask Kristen and Bennett just a couple quick questions, again, so that you guys can hear a little bit more from them about their experience. So kind of quickly, I guess, Kristen and Bennett, why did you choose to study abroad with NC State Prague versus, other study abroad programs at NC State?
I can go first. Specifically, I really wanted to do an internship, and I know that the London location, I think, also has an internship program. But I felt like Prague was a little bit more out of my comfort zone, and I just wanted to push myself in that aspect.
For me, I am from out of state, so coming to North Carolina was kind of rough. I didn't know many people. And I know that's kind of funny that I'm saying that and then decided to leave the country and then go somewhere else. Um, but that was a huge thing that I wanted to study abroad. I had exchange students myself. So that's what inspired me. And when I heard of the Prague program, it seemed like a great fit just because I knew I would be surrounded by other NC State students. And I mean, it worked. It was incredible. So.
Awesome. Thanks, y'all. So how did your study abroad experience in Prague impact your overall college experience and maybe potential work experiences or opportunities maybe that you've had since or that you're looking forward to in the future?
So it's kind of obvious with the internship, like I got work experience, and then the class that you take is a leadership class, which I felt like made my internship experience, like it took it to a deeper level, because that class really challenged us to think about the different types of leaders within my organization and then how you can approach different situations. So uh, that was very much, I got work experience from that. And then when people see it on my resume, it's one of the first questions that they ask me about. Oh, you were in Prague? What were you doing there? So it's definitely an eye catcher for sure.
I think for me, for my college experience at least, going abroad like that really, I mean, I'm a very different person than I was before I went, for the better. Coming back, I just kind of have a better way of tackling academic issues, academic challenges, social, personal, all of it. It's really just the experience itself of studying abroad kind of influences it and impacts you in every way possible. When it comes to my future work experience, I want to go to law school. That's always been my plan, but I always wanted to do like domestic law. But after studying abroad, I've actually completely changed my mind and I'm going into international law. And I hope to work in like maybe through the UN or through different channels in like the State Department. So it had a pretty big impact on my future.
Great, thanks, y'all. Again, I know we've got about 5 minutes left, so I do want to kind of pause there, Alex, if you wanted to do Q&A, or if for opening up for the attendees.
Yeah, like I said, we've got about 5 minutes. So we want to, of course, give you a chance to ask some questions. So feel free to either unmute yourself and shout it out, or you can put it in the chat box if that's more comfortable for you, however you wish. Maggie, while they're thinking about this, any questions that you you can see that we didn't get to from those that were pre-submitted?
Yeah, one that I'm seeing is maybe you can talk a little bit about how the class registration works.
Mm, yeah, sure. Okay. So so it kind of part the answer is kind of depends on the program you're in, but for our classic program, that's again the kind of typical one, the more popular one. That's the one wherein you choose the classes you want. So it the enrollment process looks a little bit different than typically would if you're on campus in Raleigh. And so what we do is we use a system called Reporter. You may be familiar with this. It's an NC State system used for trainings and so forth for staff and students. But Reporter is where we're going to put all the classes that we have available for that particular term. We'll give access to that to just those students who we know are coming. So this is going to happen after we know who's already coming in that program. And then you can go in there and just find your classes and pick them. It looks kind of like the enrollment wizard, sort of the same way. You can see information about it. You can put classes in your cart and so forth. And that's basically how it's different. So you will work within that reporter system, and then you're done at a certain date, and we'll tell you when that date is. We will then transfer that, and we will be the ones to, based on your selections, do that official enrollment through the wizard. So we'll communicate all that to you in detail, but that's the only kind of step where it looks different. It's really a pretty easy process. But yeah, so that's for the ones that have a kind of the freedom to choose. For those programs that you're on that have a preset schedule, those are even easier. You don't need to do anything. Uh, we'll communicate to you how that works, and we typically take care of the enrollment ourselves since we know who's taking what. It's all the same. Great question. So we do have one that came in real quick in the box here, and this is a good one. I didn't talk about this a whole lot, but the question is, if we chose to do early action, when can we expect to hear back about acceptance, right? So yeah, so thanks for asking this. So those deadlines, let me just pop back up here so you can see visually. The deadlines here, as I mentioned, there's an early action deadline on December 1st. So if we're just talking summer 2025, and this, what I'm about to say, is true for any deadline for the summer. So what happens in terms of timing is at that deadline, whether it's December 1st or February 5th, our office will then review all the applications that came in by that deadline. And then we'll give everybody a decision 1 week after the deadline. So for early action, December 1st, you're going to hear back. It should be December 8th, but I know that falls on a Sunday. So actually, we're going to do it for the next business day. So December 9th, in this case, we'll let everyone know if they're accepted or not. Okay, so you'll hear back pretty quickly. Now, what happens thereafter is you, on your part, once you get an acceptance, if you do, you don't have to tell us right away. You have time yourself to kind of give us your decision. And that's a 2-week period. We refer to that as the commitment period. So all we ask is by the end of that period, it could be any time during it, but no later than 2 weeks after your acceptance, that you tell us if you've accepted that, if you've committed to that, or you decline the offer. So there's basically a 3-week period, let's say, after the deadline, where we'll basically know who's coming in that phase. So yeah, so deadline, 1 week later, you get an acceptance, and then within 2 weeks, you tell us if you want to come or not. Okay, yeah, that's true as well for early action and our regular deadlines. That's sort of the structure of how it works for our reviews. But thanks for asking that. Yeah. Any other questions about application process, time-wise, anything at all? Got just about 1 or 2 more minutes here in the official hour block. So maybe one more question, Maggie. Can you pull from a pre-submitted sheet if there are any other on the list that we didn't cover?
Honestly, we kind of covered all of the questions.
Okay. Okay. Well, glad to hear that. So okay. So if you have any other questions, just shout them out in the chat. Last call for that. But while you're thinking, just to kind of close us out here, we're going to make this recording available. We'll send it out to you. Everyone who registered, we know where to send it. We have your email address. We hope this was helpful. But again, just to repeat, Maggie and I were on the Raleigh side. We've been talking about Prague, but we're here in Raleigh, so Our jobs are to kind of help you through this phase. If you just have basic questions, we're happy to explore things with you. There's kind of no pressure, no commitment. So just ask us, reach out to us. We're physically here on campus. You can find our email address, our contact information, ways to get in touch with us on our webpage. But our general email, I'll put it here in the chat box. And we actually have it, I think, Maggie, we have it on our last slide.
We don't have the
Don't
email
have it there.
address, no, but
Okay.
we do have, yeah, the website, so.
Yeah, so it's pretty basic. You can kind of remember it, NC State Prague at ncsu.edu. That's our general account. Feel free to shoot emails to us. Again, go to our webpage. We have a wealth of info, stuff we covered, stuff we didn't cover, as well as our contact information. Reach out to us, stay in touch with us. Another way to stay in touch with us is through our social media accounts. You can kind of see what students already in Prague are doing or posting as well. It's really exciting. But yeah, there's a lot of ways to get in touch with us. We can hope this is helpful. We'll send out the recording later. And yeah, I think with that, just want to thank you all for being here, as well as our awesome student alums. I hope this was helpful, and I hope to hear from you in the future.